You're watching India Today Global, and we are bringing to you the biggest news break of the moment of the hour. This is one of the most audacious attacks by the Baloch Liberation Army in Pakistan, in Balochistan. The fact that BLA has taken a train, a passenger train, hostage, and there were supposed to be more than 400 people. Now, what we're given to understand with the statement that's coming in from the Baloch Liberation Army: 182 hostages taken, 11 military personnel killed. This is a retaliation to the ground operations that have been taking place in Balochistan against the Baloch Liberation Army activists, all those who've raised their voices against what Pakistan has been doing in Balochistan. And right now, details that are just coming in is that Jaffar Express, which is the passenger train that has been that now is under the control of the BLA, still continues to have passengers on board. There are hostages, civilian passengers. We have given to understand that many of the ISI officials, military personnel who were traveling on that train have been taken hostage. Women and children from Balochistan were released earlier, and the BLA further has warned that if military intervention continues, given that there have been aerial operations that the Pakistani military has conducted against the operation or the attack by the BLA. The BLA has now warned that if military intervention continues, all hostages will be executed. This is a huge development in the recent past. We've not heard of such a massive hostage crisis, and this certainly brings to fore what's been happening in Balochistan. But to tell us exactly what's happening over there, I'm being joined by a Baloch activist who joins us on this, Mehran Murray. Mehran, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
First, take us through what is it and why is it that the BLA conducted this operation? There are statements, there was a committee meeting, and they decided on guerrilla warfare. But why?
I think the statistics are self-explanatory. As you had said, there were around 400 people and around 200 have been released. From the beginning, according to our information, there was all military personnel and their families. So obviously the families have been released and the military personnel have been kept. The whole narrative of Islamabad was the civilians traveling and civilians are being targeted. That was false, and it's coming to be to the common knowledge that it was false. They targeted the train obviously for the reasons before. Buses were used to transport Pakistani intelligence agents and military personnel from Balochistan to Punjab, and they were intercepted by Baloch liberation fighters in the past. Therefore, they have changed their modus and now started using the train. Therefore, the train was targeted to target the military personnel who come to Balochistan to rape, pillage, plunder, and exploit our resources and disrespect and murder women and children, and continue the illegal occupation of Balochistan by Punjab and Pakistan.
Okay, Mehran, also the modus operandi. This is a series of 17 tunnels, we are given to understand, in the area where the hostage crisis continues. And this is the 8th tunnel where the tracks were blown up so that Jaffar Express comes to a halt, and then people were taken hostage. This is also an area where there's no network, so we haven't seen any visuals yet. There is no eyes on the ground. There are no videos coming out of the train. There's so many passengers, but yet a single photo to come out of that area, of that place. So was that strategic planning? In how do you assess the planning by BLA in this case?
I think there was probably strategic planning, because you can see the Pakistani military and the intelligence agents, whenever they carry out an operation in an area in Balochistan or they intensify the operation, they cut off all mobile networks and cut off all communication links with the rest of the world. I think that's what the Baloch fighters have done, and rightly so. So the Pakistani intelligence drones or their spies cannot give them feedback on the situation on the ground. That's what my belief is. Yes.
Okay. Also, Mehran, there was a meeting of the Baloch Raji Aujoy Sangar, which is basically brass, as they
Yeah.
call it. And they had decided, they'd taken a few decisions in the committee, which also includes important decisions that were made, had to do with how they're going to, the messaging of how they're going to message the crisis that Baloch face in Balochistan, but also on how to inflict greater losses on the enemy, in this case the Pakistani military, while the combat superiority of brass will be further consolidated through the effective use of technology on the battlefield. How advanced do you think this planning could have been? Because this certainly for the international community would be one of the biggest attacks, and they would clearly term it a terror attack in Pakistan, in Balochistan, and we're looking at an area where there are investments, and the foreign investments include Chinese investments. So in such a scenario, what do you think the backlash could really be over here?
I think the Pakistani strategists sitting in Pindi for the past 75 years have been plotting and planning how to exploit Balochistan, how to maintain the occupation on Balochistan and the Baloch people. So if the Baloch are sitting and planning to get together at a unification of different elements in Balochistan, I think that's welcome news to the Baloch nation, and especially to the Baloch liberation struggle. As for the advancement of the techniques of BLA or other fighters, I think the Baloch fighters have evolved as well with time. Secondly, to the question of targeting where there's resources and the role of China, I think Chinese have not backed off anywhere when it came to helping the Pakistani intelligence or the Pakistani military in further subjugating or targeting the Baloch nation, Baloch nation's wealth, and the fighters who are struggling for Balochistan's liberation. They have fully, they
Right.
have fully. Sorry, there was a glitch. They have fully accommodated
Okay.
Islamabad.
You'll have to set right your video frame as well, Mehran, if I could just ask you to do that.
Is it better now?
Yeah, will you just turn it around again?
Sorry, my phone is just. Is that better?
No. You'll have to
Sorry.
auto rotate if you're live, but then there's
yeah.
only that. Yes, perfect. Yes, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, that was my point.
Okay. Provincial spokesperson Shahid Rind Mehran says that an emergency has been declared at a major hospital in Sibi City from Quetta, that's 160 kilometers from Quetta, because of the intense firing at the train. We are looking at a situation that in the recent past has not been seen. This is a massive hostage crisis. There are going to be reactions that certainly will be now coming in from various quarters, various countries. In the recent past, if you see the last hostage crisis or an attack that we saw was by the Hamas, and there was a massive backlash. This time around, we're looking at Balochistan raising their voice, Baloch raising their voice on what's happening in Balochistan. They've not really put out any demands. Do you anticipate that there would be demands that would come in from BLA at a later stage? Or is the demand just for Pak Army to stop ground operations? And what are those operations?
I think talking of hostages, Baloch nation has been kept hostage by the Pakistani army for over 30 years, or at least since Nawab Bukti's assassination, it has been kept hostage. And even now, Pakistani media houses say it's because of the sensitivities of the situation. The Pakistani media is not covering any of this news, although Indian media is highlighting what's happening in Balochistan. It's not because of the sensitivities, it's because of the embarrassment the Pakistani army and the intelligence agencies are facing. They always boast about being the best, having the best equipment, having the best expertise. They are not. They have consecutively from in Bangladesh war, where the 90,000 surrendered in front of the British army, in front of the Indian army. And many times in front of the Taliban, they've laid their arms down. They are a coward army. They only fight women and children and civilians. For the first time, they are facing real fighters, real men, and they cannot deal with it. And the embarrassment is too great for them to show on their own TV screens. Therefore, they call it, because of sensitivities of the matter, the news is not being displayed.
Okay, but in terms of demands, do we anticipate a demand by the Pakistani, by the BLA in at a later stage? What is how do you see this really pan out? So they have taken these many people hostage. What's the demand here for their release?
See, normally demands are by terrorist organizations. Baloch fighters do not have a specific demand. The demand is to withdraw from Balochistan, get the illegal Pakistani forces out of the Baloch soil, go back to Pindi, go back to Punjab. We want the sovereignty of Balochistan to be returned and the territorial integrity to be restored. I think that is the simple demand of all Baloch, the whole Baloch nation, be it a fighter or an activist or a civilian.
Okay. So that's a massive demand, Mehran.
It's absolutely not. It's a very just
No,
demand.
I'm just saying massive in terms of you're not going to see Pakistan do that. Pakistan is not going to relent. They're not going to give in. It's going to escalate. In such a scenario, it is going to escalate. This is escalation. But in that, because we have seen this only very recently, that when you put out such a strong message with such an action, it leads to a massive backlash, and you will be seeing an escalation by Pakistan. They're not going to give up on Balochistan. How do you anticipate BLA or Balochistan or Baloch activists really negotiate with Pakistan terms and conditions where there could be hostage release and that there could be withdrawal? Because there isn't going to be complete withdrawal. Is there a middle ground?
I think we have to see this Balochistan struggle in a holistic way. Just the way Donald Trump has dealt with many issues around the globe, I think Donald Trump is not going to give a carte blanche to Pakistan military to carry out the genocide in Balochistan. And Donald Trump will foot the bill. They won't. I think Pakistan is going to be held accountable and there will be justice for the Baloch. Before, America was turning a blind eye. China and the establishment were hand in hand with the brutality they're carrying out in Balochistan. That's not going to be the case. There's another factor. I think America will play a positive role in the Baloch struggle for our sovereignty and our self-dignity.
That's a very, very important message. But for now, it does seem like this is a call for massive escalation. I know I've taken a lot of your time, Mehran, but I just need to know this.
Just I want to
Is
clarify
BLA prepared? Do they have the wherewithal to withstand the onslaught of the Pak army?
Is Pakistan prepared? Is China prepared to foot the bill of the Pakistan army for these soldiers to come and fight an unjust war in Balochistan? No, I don't think the Chinese are going to foot the bill. I don't think the Americans are going to foot the bill. Pakistan is a lame duck. It's on its last leg. It has no money to survive. It's begging from the IMF to pay its basic bills and salaries. Pakistan does not have the capacity to fight another war in Balochistan.
Pakistan does not have the capacity. There are about 100 individuals who've been taken hostage. BLA is sending out a very, very strong message to Pakistan on Balochistan. How is this entire incident, this hostage crisis, going to pan out? We have been reporting on what's happening on the ground in Balochistan, what the Pakistani army does or continues to do in Balochistan, the fight and struggle of the Baloch in not about what they want from Pakistan, but the demand to have what is theirs not be taken out of Balochistan to serve the rest of Pakistan and deprive Baloch of just the very basic necessities. There are many stories to be told about Balochistan, but this is a hostage crisis. How this pans out, how how the international community is going to look at it is something we'll be watching very closely. Mehran Murray broke it down for us from the perspective of how the Baloch have viewed this entire problem that this, and the sufferings of the Baloch people in Balochistan. But this is going to escalate. There are going to be actions. Can the BLA withstand the force of the Pakistani army? Does the Pakistani army have the wherewithal to sustain continued conflict and a hostage crisis in Balochistan? Are questions that will need answering. We will be tracking all that and more over here on India Today Global. But for now, Mehran Murray, thank you so much for joining us to break this down for us. We'll keep coming back to you for perspective and an understanding on how the Baloch are looking at this. Is this a major move? Is this Baloch BLA pivoting? And will this pivot really translate into the world paying heed to what is happening in Balochistan? Thank you so much for joining us here on India Today Global.